All right, welcome back, everybody. Today we're talking Verasity VRA. We're going to talk about some recent news, chart analysis, and price predictions. So let's hop right in. First of all, it was a huge Q1 for Verasity, and they've set themselves up really, really nicely. They're on pace to complete a lot of their Q2 roadmap items as well. But what's so cool is that they've actually begun building out this admin panel for Brightcove publishers, And these Brightcove publishers, there's about a few thousand of them. This is kind of the first foray into being able to use VRA. And so these companies, these publishers will be able to use Veracity's VRA product, run ads using it, and that will provide revenue for Veracity. So this is kind of the first avenue that Veracity can start generating revenue and start bringing some more value to the actual token. So they've completed the publisher panel. They've also produced a analytics dashboard for Brightcove publishers, which is huge. And then obviously, they're starting to introduce this analytics dashboard to all of these publishers, start allowing them to kind of look into what VRA can do and what's possible with Veracity. So really, really cool. Obviously, there are a ton of other roadmap items. I think these two are the most important to keep your eye on because everyone is really, really wondering how this is going to go, right? I mean, all of this sounds almost too good to be true, what VRA can do, what Veracity can do. So everyone's excited to see if this actually works. And on that note, right, this is kind of and I apologize for that. That was the old drawing there. But what we're seeing now in Q2 and why everyone is kind of eyes on the prize here, really, really watching Veracity is because the proof of view VRA is supposed to go live for those Brightcove publishers that we just talked about sometime in the next 3 months. So within these next 3 months, it's going to be critical to watch not only how they integrate with NFT marketplace developers and the NFT marketplace development, but also enabling proof of view on smart contracts for NFTs, and then obviously proof of view live for those Brightcove customers. So these are actually those publishers that would be paying Veracity to use VRA. So this is critical. If they do not produce a customer set and they don't have a good product, this project will be dead. So everyone needs to focus on what's coming in the next few months. This needs to go well. Otherwise, our bags are definitely at stake. So everyone make sure that we're focusing on these next 3 months, how this Brightcove partnership goes. I think it's going to tell a lot about the future of Veracity. The other thing I wanted to note is that in Q1, they've gotten some of their most incredible media coverage. So this is a Forbes article talking about NFTs, and they specifically mention the ability for Mark and the rest of Veracity, their team, to actually be able to identify fake NFTs or fake views. So they talk about this in this article, and this woman who wrote this article is kind of using Veracity as the example of how to identify and how to combat these kind of false NFTs, right? So really, really interesting to see, Veracity still in a beta set, but being considered, one of the leaders in the space. So very, very cool there. They got mentions in Yahoo Finance on top of Cointelegraph, on top of Forbes. So a lot of awesome media coverage in Q1. Things are just starting to take off, and it's very, very exciting. So now that we have covered that news, let's hop into the charts real quick. First of all, we had this great breakout recently back in February out of this falling wedge. Doesn't get much cleaner than this, honestly. We see that breakout right here, and then we have those 5 or 6 green candles in a row, and it was huge in terms of establishing this kind of longer term bullish structure for the chart, right? You can see that particular breakout is kind of what helped us bounce off this longer term bullish trend line. So really, really important breakout there. Glad that we were able to kind of bounce off of that bottom. So looking into what could be coming here next for VRA and looking at a couple more pieces of the chart right now, we're actually actively trying to flip this old resistance at about 2.5 cents. We're trying to flip that into support. So if you can see here, If I drop this down right about to where it was, you can see that we're trying to flip that right now into support. We're also trying to bounce off of that 100-day moving average. So in the next few weeks, this is going to be really, really critical to be watching to see if we can actually bounce off of this previous resistance and turn that into support. If we do, could get really interesting in our ability to obviously bounce off of that. Also depends, macro news, Bitcoin, things are obviously shaky there as well right now. So a lot of that's going to depend on what's going on there. But that's kind of where we're at right now. We're looking to bounce off of about 2.4 cents, and then off of that 100-day moving average. But a couple things that I wanted to note here. So we've talked about this before. We've seen VRA stay under these moving averages for about 85 to 90 days previously, and now we're kind of floating around that same timeline here. We're actually extended. We're looking at closer to 100 days, but we've been consolidating nicely in this kind of rectangular area for, the last, let's say, 85, 86 days. So this has been a really, really healthy consolidation period. We have not dropped below that kind of critical 1.8, 1.9 cent level. So really, really cool to see the fact that even with all of this bearish movement out of Bitcoin and Ethereum as well, we're still kind of holding that support very, very strongly. So definitely bullish there. Now that we've kind of talked a little bit about what's gone on recently in the chart, let's look into some price action. So I'm going to pull up a Fibonacci retracement right here. We'll drag this out. And as you can see, we've been playing between the 0 and 236 fib since, the 5th of January, and it's been kind of that healthy consolidation in that rectangle as we've seen before. But right now, our target really is that 3.235 cent marker. So we need to, first of all, hopefully we turn this previous resistance into support. If we do, we're looking for a bounce, and then our next target is 3.2 cents. If we can reclaim that, that means that we have flipped this previous resistance into support. And if we're able to flip that into support, then we stand on top of that 3.2, and then we go for 4.3. So obviously, we have some work to do, but the kind of fundamentals are lined up pretty well. Huge Q2 roadmap coming up. The rest of the year is looking really, really good in terms of what they're going to be coming out with. But what I really want to see out of Verasity is a retest of this previous support, and then a bounce, and then maybe going up a little higher as well. But obviously we always have the threat of either returning to this previous support, which is about 1.8 cents, or even returning to this 1.6 cent 0 fib, right? That is always possible. To see that retracement there, especially with that wick that we had a few weeks back. So looking into where we could be headed here, if we want to kind of say, okay, this is a similar consolidation phase right here to what we could be seeing here. Obviously fractals, typically don't play out exactly, but it's kind of a good barometer to temper expectations and to kind of give ourselves an idea of what the chart has done previously and what it could do now. So let's take this chart pattern from that previous consolidation, and we will drag this over right here. And this obviously would show us dropping back to test that 0 fib, which obviously, maybe at first look, you'd be like, wow, I really do not want that to happen. But what would be healthy about that is the fact that we would have, at that point, we would have consolidated for, almost 200 days, a little bit more than that, in this wide rectangle. And to establish that long of a support along, the 1.6 cent level, that is a major strength indicator for the chart long term. With that bounce back to that fib, we actually still are able to maintain somewhat of a bullish structure long term. So I definitely, this is obviously in the cards, right? I mean, if Bitcoin drops below 40K, anything's really in the cards for these low cap altcoins. So based on what we're seeing here with this kind of very, loosely reflected fractal here, lining this up, this would put us breaking that previous all-time high of 8.7 cents and going up to 9 cents, 10 cents. That would put us doing that in August. And obviously, a lot of this is going to be depending on macro, Russia, Ukraine, Bitcoin, Ethereum, how that's performing, inflation. We know that that's not getting any better anytime soon. So a lot to be, watching there. What makes me kind of bullish short term in terms of our ability to flip this previous support into resistance, you can see that actually, on a longer term spectrum, that resistance is really, really important. So this fractal would have us flipping that in June as opposed to flipping it now in this week of April, April 14th, 15th. It would have us flipping that directly, 2 months from now instead, as opposed to flipping that now. But what makes me somewhat positive about our ability to flip it now is the fact that our RSI has actually looked decently healthy. Usually after a run-up, you're going to see ourselves closer up to this overbought mark. But right now, we're actually playing around 50. Obviously, not saying we couldn't drop lower, but at the same time, we have room, we're not overbought yet. So we have room to kind of climb back to the upside, and we have space to go from 50 to 70 here on the RSI. So, it's not like we're up against that overbought. A lot of times I've seen coins, and we've covered coins on this channel, where we're at the overbought mark, and, we are still kind of descending somewhat. So that's definitely something to keep your eye on there. Really, we're hoping we retest that, and we're hoping that we flip that 2.4 cent mark into support. If we do, I think that we could actually head to the upside quicker than what this fractal is showing. But according to this fractal, again, the target would be just under 10 cents in late August. But honestly, speaking long term, I think a lot of folks who are in this project are really thinking 3 to 5 years out. Obviously, anything is really possible with this big of a market and what Verasity is playing for. I think super long term, the most reasonable price target based on the fib is up here at 31 cents. I don't know how long it's going to take us to get there, right? I mean, anything's really possible. If this technology really takes off, there's going to be a market demand for it. But at the same time, we have to temper expectations. Long term, I think we try to go for 31, 32 cents. In terms of the end of this year, if everything goes smoothly, we want to be playing between 8 cents and 13 cents, 9 cents and 13 cents. And, that fractal had us right about here when we repeated that. So I think, end of year, we want to be playing between 9 and 13 cents. And then if we can, super long term, this could be years out, I'm kind of targeting for a high target of 30 to 32 cents. We've seen a lot of, dollar calls, $2, $3 calls on Twitter. And obviously, there could be some merit to that, down the line. But right now, I think we're looking for 31 cents super long term. And then, semi long term, maybe end of the year, next year, looking to play between 9 and 13 cents. And then hopefully, by the last few months of this year, we're able to reclaim this previous all-time high of 8.7 cents. So that's kind of what I'm seeing, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you got some value out of this. Let me know what other projects you want me to cover, and we'll see you in the next video. Thanks.